Welcome to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast, where we dive deep into raw, unfiltered journey of entrepreneurship, fitness, mental health, and building businesses from the ground up. I'm Eric Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, real estate developer, fitness enthusiast, dad, and husband.
And I'm Destiny Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, creative, brand strategist, and above all, mom and wife, bringing you real talk on what it takes to thrive as a business owner, especially when you're doing it alongside your partner. Here, we don't just focus on the wins. We dig deep into the struggles, the sacrifices, and the daily grind that it takes to make it all possible. So tune in, subscribe, and get ready to uncover the grit behind the grind. Welcome back to the Grit Behind the Grind. Today we're talking about a word that can be tough for many of us, failure. It's something we all experience, yet a lot of us don't openly discuss our failures. I want to share some of our own failures and lessons that brought me to those hard truths that forced me to adapt and grow. I hope these stories show you that failure is just one part of the journey.
As we dive into it, what is one of the failures that taught you something valuable?
One failure that kind of sticks out more than anything, I think, that has taught me probably the most valuable lesson and has allowed, honestly, our company to grow. We learned early in our coffee business, and it's whenever I tried to handle everything on my own. I was determined, because I'm just a control perfectionist, to make every detail just perfect. And I thought that I had to have my hand on every part of the business. And that's almost impossible for you to grow whenever you're wearing all the weight on your back. Eventually it became super overwhelming. And then I realized that I was actually holding things back by not letting others step in and help.
Yeah, I can vouch for all of those things that you just now said, 1000%. So proceed.
Well, the experience, when I look back now, in the moment, I did not feel it like this. I seen all red. I was like, this ain't happening. This is probably the biggest fight that we've had recently. And when I say fight, like disagreement, usually I can kind of see your perspective. You can see where my perspective is. And we kind of always come to a level ground. But this specific incident, I was like, there's no way that you are compromising being empathetic to me. And I was by no means trying to like cave in and cater your needs. And this was one of the biggest kind of arguments that we had. But this experience taught me the importance of trust. And that is trusting in my team, letting go of control, and the D word that most people don't like, delegating.
Yeah.
It's a reminder, though, that you're stronger together. And we've literally built our entire coffee brand on collaboration and community. And that's reaching out for others to grow our brand across state line, or bringing people in to be a part of our team. And that growth often empowers others to take a lead. And it's beautiful. And at the end of the day, we're not in the coffee business. We're in the giving people opportunity business. Like, we love spreading light.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Remember the other day we were sitting at the Tesla charging station, and I was talking to a buddy that had a Tesla, and he goes, it's like explaining to somebody how driving a Tesla is so much different, and the safety features and all the benefits to it. But if they've never been in a Tesla or experienced it or even been a passenger, like it's hard getting them to understand that. And that's the same way this is. It's basically, until you realize that and then delegated it out, right? You really didn't understand what the other side of that looked like. So it was really beneficial at a certain point in your life. It was like, I don't understand how I can give these tasks to somebody else.
Yeah.
But then when you became a bottleneck in your own business and you was actually stunning growth and then delegated those things out, now it allowed you to see it from a different perspective and said, oh, wow, well, if I give these tasks to somebody else, then I can go focus on these other things that would move the needle forward on the business.
And it's amazing how, like, especially a control freak or perfectionist, like, we think that we can do everything well. There's gifts and talents that I was not gifted, spelling being one of them, but yet I'm trying to copyright. Whenever I can give this, I can delegate this to someone else who that is their gifts. They are so good at words, and
they light up when they're doing it.
And they love it. And what changed for me is learning that me not delegating is hindering someone from being in their purpose.
Yeah.
And it's being, when you realize that, you're like, oh, dang, I'm being selfish. I'm trying to control all these variables. And that's not even my gift. I'm swerving in someone else's lane. But whenever I'm in my lane, everything that I do with my gifts and talents are effortless, and it's not work, it's passion, it's fun, it's never a burnout. And so that was the biggest thing that I had to see the hard way.
Yeah, I think continuously auditing ourselves as a entrepreneur and a business owner, because a lot of us started out like bootstrap this business, and we had to wear all the hats and DIY. And once you get to a certain level in your business, then you need to perform an audit and figure out, okay, where have I been in my own way, right? And a lot of that is delegating.
Could we have grown this business to what it is today in this short period of time if I would have not let someone else take lead of our first shop? Yes or no?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were still trying to control everything in that one shop location, then we would still be there, right? We would only have that shop, maybe one or two other locations, but we didn't really see extreme growth until we got out of our way. But it's a good and a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, at a certain point, like what you're doing by doing everything is you're controlling quality,
Yeah.
right? Like the standard, you're building that culture. But whenever you had that culture in place and you had those systems, like you got to have that audit with yourself and say, okay, I've built and done what I can for this silo. Let me move on to the next silo and then pass that torch to the next person, right? Because there might be somebody, you're a creator. I know that about you. And you go in and you create, but then when there's nothing else to create because you've put all the systems and processes in place and you created the culture, then there's other people out there that they perform at a high level following systems. So now you as a creator need to go step out and create something new and allow somebody that is, a by the book type of system follower person to come in and run those operations.
Yeah, and just thrive in their purpose and
Yeah.
bring their strength to the table. Another thing, though, I don't think that it would have been possible if I didn't have someone like you in my corner to be real and raw and be like, look, girl, there ain't no way that we're ever going to grow if you don't get out the way. You make the decision.
Yeah, because if I'm being honest, it was like pulling teeth. I remember very vividly many nights. I mean, you were break down,
Yeah,
like
I cried. We
Yeah.
like fought, like not physically, but
because
like,
you didn't see
Yeah.
that. Like it was almost like the
We get
mom
tunnel
bird
vision.
kicking them out the nest. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It was like, babe, we gotta fly. Go, come on, we going.
And then did that have a little bit to play with maybe midlife identity crisis? Like if you're a creator, you create these things and you almost feel like delegating is impossible because you've put your identity so much into creating this coffee shop. And I was a coffee shop owner, and that wasn't, and whenever I took myself out of that, it was almost like, who am I now? If I'm not this, then what am I? And so that's really hard for people to kind of mentally deal with too. So
Yeah, no doubt. I think that, like my long-term play is to always be creating and building new businesses. Like, so I know right now we're focused on growing the Grit and Grind coffee franchise, and we're going to, grow that to 100 locations and nationally, and then eventually internationally. But I'm already like 3 steps ahead of that. Like I'm at a point to where, we own an equity company and we help other business owners and entrepreneurs fund their dreams or help them build their businesses, right? Because I know that my bandwidth is limited for this one brand, right? Like I'm going to be 110% in for a time, and then I'm going to want to go and play with a new toy.
yeah. So with that kind of failure, which that was not the only one, that was just the one that kind of struck home to me. But in these instances, how do you bounce back when things don't go as planned?
Oh yeah. So, I mean, when things don't go as planned, I remind myself that setbacks, they're just part of the journey, right? So at the end of it, my first step is to take a deep breath, acknowledge what happened, and then get clear on what went wrong and not letting it cloud my mindset. Then I want to shift my focus to like solutions, asking myself, like, what can I learn from this? How can I approach it differently next time? And then I lean into support systems and sometimes even take a step back and regain perspective, depending on the situation. Bouncing back is all about staying adaptable. I mean, one of my favorite words is pivoting, right? Just meaning that like I can start going down the road, I can take a left when there's a fork, but I'll make a U-turn real quick. If I see that this is not, bringing the results that I expected, I can pivot really fast. So just keeping your eyes on the long game is, my, I guess, thought process and how I make sure that even when things go negatively, that I can bounce back. So I can tell you one story. Basically, one thing that sticks out to me more than any other time in recent history is I can say whenever we started growing the Grit and Grind franchise, we started out by licensing our brand. And I know that I got really excited about building a coffee shop. And then what that evolved into is somebody reached out and was like, hey, will you kind of coach us and mentor? Like, I want to open up a small coffee shop in our town. And what that conversation led into was our first licensing deal. So they opened up, the second Grit and Grind location that was ever out there. And that was a highly successful relationship. And so what I did was I audited after that partnership and said, hey, this is how I want to grow. This is how we, scale this business. We bring on other people to partner with this brand that we created. And so where my headspace was, is I was like, hey, look, this is going to be super exciting. We're going to be in all of these new cities. We're going to grow this brand. We're going to do it together. And like, I was really, really focused on scaling before I had the systems and processes in place. Next thing you know, we did a second licensing deal. And then right there at that third licensing deal, I remember we went down on vacation in Destin, Florida, and we dropped into a CrossFit gym because that's typically what we do is we'll go travel and we'll drop in and get in a workout or something. While we're getting in that workout, the person who was running that gym basically was like, hey, I've always wanted to get into coffee. And then I went, hey, that's exactly what we're doing. Or I don't remember how the conversation went. They found out that we were doing, coffee, and they was like, hey, we always wanted to do that. It's like, actually, we have this licensing deal and, you can partner up with us and all these cool things. Well, I got super tunnel vision on scaling, and I combined that scaling vision that I had with the perceived value of people who do CrossFit, which is ultimately, they are hard workers and they have perseverance traits and things like this. So I didn't vet this person the way that I should have vetted somebody to be a part of my brand. And what that done was it was highly costly financially because it was a bad partnership deal. They come into the brand and they didn't want to follow systems and processes. They actually wanted to do their own thing, which is not what we were creating that we thought. So that actually made us evolve as a company.
It forced us to be able to pay attention to the things that we value as our brand, which is brand integrity. It is consistency. It is, partnering and aligning ourselves with people who are 100%, committed to our core values. And ultimately we had to franchise to be able to hold people to those standards.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, somebody stole a lot of our intellectual property, and we had to spend a lot of money on legal fees and counsel and so forth. But I don't even look at it like that as a negative. Yeah, like I am so thankful from that, because actually whenever I was a young company, I learned such a valuable lesson, and that is how to vet partners for our brand. So ultimately it was a huge win, because now I'm able to have a system and a process for vetting people that do align. That's going to save me a lot of money on the back end by just bringing anybody who wants to be a part of the brand inside my circle.
And it's not just, us, you and I as the founders with our one corporate shop or two corporate shops. Then we just had one location, and that reputation that they spread was affecting, Mississippi location and our corporate. Now we have 10 plus shops that and we're just growing. To vet people, to make sure that they align as people and individuals is so crucial. And I don't know if we would have, actually seen the value in that, how important that responsibility is that we hold to make sure that the people that we're bringing into the brand represents every other owner as well.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. What about, do you have any routines or practices to help you reframe failure?
Oh, goodness. So I found out that reframing failure starts with intentional routines that help me stay grounded. So, first, I allow myself, of course, to feel all the feelings, whether it's disappointment, anger, frustration, whatever it is, because I don't want to ignore it. That doesn't help at all, just shoving all those emotions down. I try and take audit, like you said earlier, of what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? But another practical thing that I love to do is I like to practice gratitude. I focus on what is going good or what is going well in my life right now, whether it's in my business or personal life, or where past failures seem to work out in my benefit. That perspective shift reminds me that failure is just one area of this big old picture and doesn't define the entire journey. But something practical, like if I want to give you practical tips that help me bounce back or shift my perspective, it's journaling. The coolest thing is to write down what failures or what went wrong and try and understand maybe why they went wrong or how can I avoid these failures or issues next time. And then I fast forward 3, 6, 8 months later and I just kind of, flip through my journal and I see in my own writing where my headspace was whenever I talked about, man, I hate that this failed partnership came up, but how can I learn from it? And then to be in that future version of me where I'm so grateful that I went through this because now I know how to handle, new partnerships and people and all those things. So I love having a journal, being able to look back at those answered prayers or seeing my own words and fear and how it come out just beautiful on the other end.
Yeah, no, I love that as far as practicing gratitude, because I think that is the hack, right? It's all about perspective. And we've all heard 1,000 times that, are you looking at the glass half full or are you looking at half empty? But let's break that down. What does that actually mean? It means that I'm focused on the positives. I'm focused on the lessons that this L is going to teach me, right? I'm not focused on, oh, poor me, this crushed me, this did that, all the negative things that I could focus on. It's being just thankful for the lesson and there's always a lesson that you can learn in that, right? So
if not, I've learned that God will bring back that lesson over and over and over
again.
Yeah,
you better learn it the first time
until you learn it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I've been there, so many times. So I think we all have.
Yeah. So hopefully this episode helped you a little bit to understand that we're all going through failures. It's just going to be how you take that failure and implement into your life to use it to grow. Thank you for tuning in to The Grit Behind the Grind. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. Don't forget to follow us on social media for more behind the scenes content and updates. Keep grinding and we'll see you next time.